got Florence Noble in the centre. She's a photographer, actor, writer and director. She works in Sydney and New Zealand. Alongside creating television commercials, Florence is the creator of the online sketch comedy Blind Pilot, interactive comedy series 7 Days Later, and sketch show Meanwhile on Earth. She also starred in the Jaquie Brown Diaries, directed by Gerard here. Then we've got Gerard Johnstone, is a writer-director originally from Invercargill. In 2008, Gerard co-created TV comedy series The Jaquie Brown Diaries. His acclaimed debut feature film horror comedy Housebound, starring Morgana O'Reilly and Rima Turiata, was funded by the New Zealand Film Commission's Escalator scheme and won a number of awards in international festivals. Gerard is currently working on the soon-to-be-released TV series Terry Teo, starring Millen Baird. And finally we've got Millen Baird. Oh, I love the connections, eh? We're all connected here, guys, you know, atomically. Millen Baird is a writer, actor, producer and comedian. His self-titled comedy TV series, The Millen Baird Show, won rave reviews, as did his more recent comedy web series, Auckland Daze. Millen appears in TV's Step Dave and the Almighty Johnsons, as well as Gerard's Housebound, an upcoming series, Terry Teo. His latest project is comedy series Daryl, an Outward Bound story, in which Millen plays the lead role. Now we're going to see examples of their work. What a talented trio. So I thought we would just find out a bit about these guys and about their careers and their past, and then we'll launch into the pearls of wisdom. And I thought I'd kick it off with a question. What was your first ever joke? Millen.
First ever joke?
Yeah.
I think it was probably one I stole from one of Dad's mates when I was really young, like about 7 or 8. We're at a beach in Taranaki, Owakura Beach, and one of Dad's mates come around, Dave Rennick. He's not here, is he? And he said to my dad, "Oh, Gary, what's white and jumps around the floor?" And then I poked my head around the door, and he goes, "Come dancing." And I was like, and everyone in the room was like, and I was like, I don't know what the hell he did, but I just passed that off as my own. I remember telling everyone, and I thought that was the greatest joke I'd ever heard, even though I didn't know what it meant.
Nice.
Yeah.
Florence?
I can only remember one joke at a time.
All right, so your latest joke.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, please.
Everyone will know it already. Okay. What's the difference between jam and marmalade? You can't marmalade your cock up your girlfriend's ass.
I don't get it. Wonderful. And Gerard.
I've been trying to think of it as these two guys are giving their answers, and all I remember is the punchline is death by bunter, and it's where everyone gets sodomised to death. But I don't know this. I can't remember the setup, but I'm pretty sure that there's always a priest or an Irishman or something, and
It's always a priest.
but you know, it made an impression on me, obviously,
Yeah.
because it was the first joke I remember.
All very crass, quite dirty people, aren't you? My first joke, it wasn't really a joke, I'll just throw in my two cents.
Tom, what was your first joke?
Yeah. At school, we were all about road safety. I mean, this is very telling. We were just it was just always about road safety, and like me and my friends would laugh about me getting hit by a car with such force that my head would rip free and land on the principal's desk. Anyway, that was my first joke. When did you guys know you were funny? Did you know when you were children? Like, were you the class clown? Millen?
I won a cross-dressing competition in Fiji in
Age?
83,
Right.
and I was a confused child. Well, my mum was a speech and drama teacher, and we used to do these May competitions in the Naki. I can remember doing a poem called Fred and Marguerite, because you had to recite poems in a school hall in front of a whole crowd of people, and one of the poems was Fred and Marguerite, about Fred, a Cockney sparrow who who hooked up with a French bird, Marguerite, and I can remember the crowd was loving it, and that's the first
Right.
time I felt that kind of rapport, and I thought, ooh.
Did you get a rush?
I did, I got a rush.
And
I
was
liked
it
it.
like no looking back from that point on? Were you like, yes, this is what I need to do with my life?
No, I didn't have that kind of revelation. Like at school, at New Plymouth Boys, it wasn't the done thing. I didn't do any school plays or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was kind of frowned upon. Very steeped in rugby tradition, New Plymouth Boys. So no, it wasn't until I sort of figured out that I was a useless accountant.
Oh,
But
really? So you studied accountancy and became an accountant?
I was an accountant for 2 years, and I had
Brilliant.
the lowest chargeability in the Asia Pacific region for my career. And then I literally one day opened the Yellow Pages and it opened on Unitec Drama School, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
well, let's do that.
And were you wanting to be a dramatic actor? Or were you just
No.
like, nah, comedy all the way?
There's too much drama in my life. But
Yeah.
I was just like, no, we'll go comedy, because a lot of the stuff that I do is sort of autobiographical, because I'm a magnet for uncomfortable situations. So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, let's hope to have a few tonight.
Yes.
Florence, when did you know you were funny? Were you a funny little, I just picture this beautiful little English rose 3-year-old with rosy cheeks telling crass jokes. Were you?
Was I, Mum?
Well,
Was
Mum's
I?
here.
I don't
Was she
think I
always
was
funny?
No, I don't think I was ever really funny. But I don't know. Don't know if I am funny.
Right.
Funny.
You
Oh,
are.
okay.
You're
I
funny,
think
Florence.
I
This is
think
their
trying
mum
to be
jokes.
unexpected,
Yeah.
like looking innocent like I do, and saying something hideous.
Yeah.
That's actually how I describe you to people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Innocent looking, saying
Yeah.
something hideous.
Yeah.
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 Here comes marmalade.
Actually, I'd say Florence is like if one of those twins from The Shining just never grew up, but developed a warped sense of humour.
That's a great description. And what about you, Gerard?
Well, I just remember thinking, I remember always trying to be funny, and it's that thing at school where you're ranked. It's kind of your popularity is based on how funny you are, and if you're not funny enough, you drop down a tier in your social grouping at school. So I remember from very early on it just being very important to be really funny, and I think I was always just clinging on to the very bottom rung
Right.
of a decent moral level of, you know, the popular kids, but
Yeah.
just hanging on for dear life. And often I'd be on a roll, but then I'd fuck it up,
Yeah.
you know. So maybe that's why writing felt good, because you could go
Yeah.
and hone it. Like I found some writings once when I went back to home, and Mum was saying, "Here's all your shit, fucking I don't want it." And I found writings of encounters I had at school where I'd written down how it should have gone or it could have gone.
Gorgeous.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. When you were kids, like, did you have comedy or funny characters that you looked up to, or icons or comedians or anything like that? Florence, who did you have?
Papa Lazarou in League of Gentlemen.
Oh, really?
In
Great.
fact, I dressed up as him on Halloween and tried to get all the rings, because Papa Lazarou is a character that goes around, "Give your ring to Papa Lazarou," and he goes around trying to get all these rings, and then he goes, "You're my wife now." And I tried to do that for Halloween with all of
Did
the
it go
people.
down well? Quite
So when
niche.
you were a kid,
They hadn't watched
League
the
of
show,
Gentlemen.
I don't think.
Yeah, the League of Gentlemen stretched right back then.
Just goes to show
It's
how
pretty
young
old.
you actually
Yeah,
are.
got an
wow.
embryo on the stage.
No, it's
Yeah.
pretty old.
I was thinking eventually you get onto League of Gentlemen when you're in your
Yeah.
late 20s, early
Exactly.
30s, but, you know,
League of Gentlemen's really old.
Is it?
to some people, to others it's just like yesterday.
What about you, Millen? Who were your heroes?
I used to massage my mum's feet so I could watch the two Ronnies.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Gorgeous.
And that was a traumatic experience, let me tell you. But yeah, they were my heroes back in there. Morecambe and Wise, remember them?
Yep.
Yeah, I love the two Ronnies.
What did you love about them?
I don't know. I think it was that sketch. Have you seen that Mastermind sketch? Anyone seen that?
Yes, I love
Where
that one.
Ronnie Corbett's the contestant and Ronnie Barker's the quizmaster, and Ronnie Corbett is answering the question before last with every question. It's just hilarious. It's on YouTube. It's a beauty.
Should we watch it now? Eloise, can you?
Timeless.
And what about you, Gerard? Who are your childhood comedy heroes?
I think it was, I mean, obviously there's Billy T, but overrated. No, it was stuff like, Kevin Bloody Wilson, he'd do the naughty swearing comedy that you'd have to, go jump through all types of hoops to get that tape.
Rodney Rood as well.
Rodney Rood and the 12th Man that used to do the cricket commentaries, and he just do all the characters. And I remember me and my brother just listened to those, just all weekend, just thinking it was hilarious. And I knew nothing about cricket and still don't. But
you'd often walk around school, and people would be going, "Stick that fucking phone up your fucking ass."
Everyone knew
Kevin Bloody Wilson. Yep.
Anyone? Kevin Bloody Wilson? No? Yeah. All right. No.
Awesome. Do you guys, all modesty aside, do you guys feel that you have a career in comedy? Millen.
Well, it's taken me a while because I think I always associated it with earnings and consistency of work and that kind of thing.
The accountancy kind of model.
Yeah. Numbers drummed into me. But no, I think I do now. I think because when I get up in the morning, it's pretty much all I think about. It's what I do. So now there's a bit more of an ownership, but before there it was a bit of a struggle, but now it's...
When did you own it? At what point?
When at WINS they said occupation.
I remember going into WINS to get one of their enterprise allowances back in the day, and they said, I had a standoff with my case manager because he was like, "Why should we fund you, Dylan?" I said, "Millen." And he goes, and my answer was so lame, I said, "Because I'm liberating the community with my acting skills." Oh, it was the lamest response.
That's beautiful.
But I asked for another case manager. Sorry, what was the question again?
Career in comedy. When did you know? When did you claim it as your own? Like, when did you go, "Yes, I'm a comedic job person"?
I think it's probably quite recently, actually. I just sort of thought, well, there's a body of work there and now, and I don't know, I just feel kind of comfortable sort of saying it. I get up in the morning, it's what I do, and it's kind of, I'm constantly thinking about it, and it's my outlet for what happens to be in my life, as I want to translate it to the screen because it's so bizarre.
Gerard?
I just want to say I think it's a sad indictment of this country that Millen Baird is not this generation's Fred Dagg, as he ought to be.
Preach.
A compliment.
Career in comedy,
For an insult.
I think so.
Could you do drama?
Oh, I see.
Could you do like a Shakespearean tragedy?
So you've staged this whole thing, elaborate thing, just to embarrass me in front of everyone. Okay. I don't know. I haven't tried it. I'd probably. I think it might be easy to go from comedy to. I personally think comedy is a lot harder than drama. Just cause. But that's not to say I think I could do it. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, I think everything I sort of, even when I started out to do it, even with Housebound, I think I started out to do a pretty serious horror and just couldn't. I just couldn't because I'd seen because in order to do one, I thought, well, I'd better watch every single horror movie ever made, and by the fifth one, all the plots just rolled into one. That it was all the same stuff. So it was like, okay, well, you couldn't help but thinking of ways to, put a spin on it and stuff. So I think everything just ends up becoming funnier, even if you don't mean it to. So maybe that's why I think. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the same with you guys, but do you find you're always looking for the joke in a situation?
Yeah, like when someone says that they've got stage 3 cancer.
Yeah.
And you're trying to eat some food? Yeah. You're trying to eat some food when they say it? And you're going, when am I allowed to eat? Because if I eat now, is that insensitive?
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Florence? When did you own your comedic career?
I think people said, you're a comedian. And then I was like, oh, am I? And they were like, yes, you are. People like Johnny Bruff were like, you are.
Yeah.
So, and then you go, oh, okay, so I'm allowed to say that then.
And was that just recently?
Well, probably about two years ago.
Yeah. So does it
Was it on your departure card?
does it feel comfortable saying it?
Feels great.
Feels great. I work in comedy. Is that what you say?
I don't know what I say. I just,
It does sound a bit lame, yeah, no, it does feel... Even when you say, what do you do, and, you know, if you work in film and TV,
Yeah.
or I don't know, as a director or whatever, people just look confused.
Yeah.
You know, like the bar, I was getting my hair cut and the barber was like, hey, so what do you do for work, mate? You know, and I'm trying to have this bloke, like we were just talking about...
it's a no-win situation, eh?
We were just talking about like the boxing match, and I was trying to get my man on, going, oh yeah, who do you reckon's going to win? And yeah, it's going to be a close one, and you know, this will be great. You know, Parker, you know, paying his dues, right? Yeah, he's paying his dues. And he's like, hey, so what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a writer and a director. And it's just like, he didn't talk to me for the rest of the fucking haircut.
But I think that people react, like if you say, yeah, I work in comedy, people are much more open to that than, yeah, I work in really heavy family dramas.
But you could say it just as seriously.
True.
I always like to say it just as seriously.
I
So
work
they
in
go,
comedy.
I work in comedy.
Didn't someone, isn't there like some, I don't know if a friend said this or a celebrity, but they're one and the same.
Yeah,
They're one and the same. They're all in my head. But you know, when you go to the customs, it's always when you go through customs, what are you doing? I'm a comedian. Oh, yeah, tell me a joke, make me laugh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Or if you're on a plane,
they do that.
they say,
They do that.
what do you do? Oh, I'm an actor. They're like, oh yeah, I was Horatio in my sixth form play. Whereas if you say, you go, oh, fuck, I'm not going to do that again. I'm a plumber. They're like, I've got a problem with these pipes.
Yeah.
My house.
Yeah.
It's a no-win, isn't it?
No, exactly. How would you describe your comedy? If you had to distill it into a few words, how would you describe it? Florence?
Is irreverent the right word?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, great.
That's great to describe your comedy,
Yeah.
yes.
And it used to be quite dry. That's not very dry. It's pretty wet.
Yeah. Very kind of goopy, kind of ice cream. Yeah.
Very moist sketch,
Moist.
that one.
Very, very dry. Yeah, I'd say that. And a bit gormless sometimes.
What?
Gormless.
What?
Anyway, we'll talk about it afterwards, promise. Millen, how would you describe your comedy?
Yes, it's dry as an un's nasty, as Debbie used to say. I like characters on the downside of advantage, I guess.
Mhm.
I like characters that don't fit in. And
Were you intentionally quoting Russell Crowe?
no, but I was trying to think of who I was quoting. I think it was Ricky Gervais once said. He said he doesn't laugh at people he doesn't like, and he doesn't want to watch brilliant people telling you how funny and brilliant they are. He likes someone who falls down and tries to get back up and dusts themselves
Yeah,
off. Yeah.
Yeah. And Gerard, how would you describe yours?
I think maybe sort of I'm into subversive stuff, but at the same time fun. It used to be that I was so precious about being really dry and subtle and stuff, but that was maybe just a fear of, especially doing comedy in New Zealand, everything that had come before was just so fucking big, and so when we did Jaquie Brown Diaries, it was just like, let's just keep it, just calm down, just keep it cool, keep it dry, keep it subtle, and the fun thing about Terry was actually getting to put wigs on Millen and play dress ups and stuff like that. It felt like maybe I'd earned it by
This
then.
is your new direction, do you feel?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
from here it's Christmas pantomimes.
Yeah, great. You're the grand mum. Do you feel that your comedy is always evolving, or do you think you're like, yep, this is me, this is my shtick? Florence?
I think it can't help but evolve.
Yeah.
And it depends who you work with too.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes somebody's got a different vibe to another.
Yeah.
and it can go all different ways. I think I know what I don't like,
Yeah.
and then other than that, when I know I like it, it could be anything really. Yeah.
Cool. Because often a complaint about comedy is it dates quite badly. What do you think are the kind of timeless comedic pieces, and like what makes them what makes comedy not date? Gerard.
I think it's about being truthful and honest. I mean, obviously, anything that's kind of trying to be fashionable or make a commentary about something of a particular time doesn't date very well, and you almost need a preface to get into it. But I think if you're really honest, that always cuts through. And if your genuine intention is to make people laugh, like the Three Amigos or something like that, where they're just, I mean, there's so many different types of ways to skin a cat comedically, but that film is pure, it's just pure joy, from woe to go. So there's no other agenda.
Yeah.
So I think,
Have you guys got anything to add to that?
I think the stuff that doesn't date as much is about, I think comedy for me is about the human condition.
Yeah.
So what's true about a human, what it's like to be a human, and the stuff that I don't think that ever changes really. We're still human, and we were the same as we are now, pretty much.
Exactly.
So things like Big Train, there are a lot of sketches there that I don't think have dated that much,
Yeah.
apart from the bits of canned laughter. Those bits where you go, oh, did they?
Which kind of connects to yours about the truth, isn't it? It's about truthful expression of the human condition. Yeah.
That's why cliches are annoying. I'll watch something and it's got a cliche in it, and you'll be like, well, is that even true? Like, I've seen that 100 times before. Why are you doing that again?
Yeah.
Make a twist on it. If you're going to have a cliche character, twist it a bit.
Mm. Cool. Okay, let's get into the pearls of wisdom. Millen, I'll start with you. Where did Auckland Daze come from? What was the beginning of it? And in a really brief nutshell, how did you get it to its finished product? Where did it come from?
So, there I was. How did it start? Okay, so I saw a program called The Hills. Who's seen The Hills? That
Yes, it's great.
docu-soap. I remember watching that one day and I was like, God, this is the greatest thing in the world. There was nothing happening, nothing was going on, but I was like riveted to my seat. I was like, it's amazing. What is it, Heidi or whatever? Oh, is she going to be with Spencer?
Heidi Monte.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the greatest. And I was like, I had these characters in my mind, and then I went over to Waiheke and I did a one-man show over there, and I'd met little Jimmy at the Music Awards, and this is going to be a long story, I'm sorry. I met him at the Music Awards, and I remember being at the awards, and I'd never met him before, but I felt something tugging on my and I turned around and I was like, oh, and little Jimmy's there, he's holding 2 glasses of wine, like his shrub, swaying like a shrub in the breeze, and I was like, hey man, what's the protocol? Do I come down, or do you come up, or, We'd said, we'd like to do something together. Anyway, I was over in Waiheke and I was doing a one-man show, and there was a joke about a little dwarf in it, and there was about 3 people in the audience, and Jimmy was like, oh my God, you hear that? It's the funniest show in the world, and then, people were completely disinterested. Anyway, I came out of the show and I saw Kyle and Kerry, who were sitting down here, and we were like, man, we need to do something together, because we'd met at drama school. And I was like, man, I've got this idea about, these, have you ever seen The Hills? And Kyle had seen Entourage, and we kind of fused the two, and we were like, I know a little man who's a dwarf entertainer, and I've got my mate Glenn Levy's a stuntman. We've got my mate Fussy too is getting into stand-up comedy, and how about I play a useless male model, and we fuse everyone, and they're all in different facets of the entertainment industry. So that's kind of how it all started. And we made a pilot in 2011 that ran for 12 minutes, and we pitched it. And NZ On Air was concerned about the interactivity. They didn't think there was enough, user interaction. So we got turned down, and then we applied the following year, and we got accepted. And that was 2011 we shot the first season, so that's kind of how it started.
Great. And what happened, like, with you and Kerry and Kyle? Were you in a room together, mucking it out and coming up with a scenario, or what was that step?
Yeah, we were pretty much on the same page as far as we wanted it to have that docu-soap feel, so it couldn't sound scripted, because one of the things my pet hates is I hate writing scripts, and then I hate hearing the scripts when I see the final product, so I want it to be organic, so we need to infuse ad-libs or improv or something into the process. So yeah, we had scripts written, and then on the day, because we had to turn around an episode in a week, there was a lot of, man, we need another scene in here, so we'd script it, and Kyle and I would run down to Wynyard Quarter or something, we'd shoot another scene, and it was on the fly, and it was experimental, and we were kind of making it up as we went along, but that was part of the excitement of it. And in a way, all the four guys were kind of competing for airtime, so it was kind of like, hey, well, if you haven't got a funny gag, you're not going to appear as much in the scene as you may want. So all the boys were on their toes, and it was a really great way to work, and it was always energised.
So was it just do you think it was a collection of like-minded creative people?
Yeah, definitely. Everyone was on the same page. Kyle and Kerry were producing, I was a co-producer, and that's one of the important things I think people need to do is when they want a career in comedy, especially in New Zealand, they need to learn how to co-produce or produce. You need to be in charge of your own comedy, your own material. You need to defend your vision to the hilt. And
so what would that look like being a co-producer? Were you there in the meetings with New Zealand On Air and stuff like that?
Yeah, my role was more of a creative co-producer. Kerry was the numbers person and organisational person, and Kyle was the directorial vision. So it was definitely a team effort. Everyone, had to be on the same page. We all knew our roles, and that's kind of why I think that worked in our favour.
So, do you have meetings with NZ On Air? How does that happen?
Yeah, exactly. True. So yours was a very collaborative kind of feel, and so Gerard, with Housebound, what was the kernel, what started that journey?
It was just based on that, I was washed up, 2 seasons of Jaquie Brown Diaries. It was a distant memory, and I needed to do something else. The phone wasn't ringing, and there was a scheme, the escalator scheme was 4 films will be funded for 250 grand, and having just made a 6-part series for $1 million and realising how short that money stretched, thinking, well, what on earth would I do for $250,000? So that idea basically came out of the premise, which is, obviously a lesson in, using parameters to be creative.
Limited locations.
Exactly, and in the end there was like 18 locations and 3 or 4 different houses to make up that one house, but at least the thought was there.
And you fully scripted it, and how much do you think the finished product is similar to the shooting script?
It's maybe about 20 pages shorter, the thing with Housebound is I just really struggled writing that script because it was in essence it was a murder mystery. It was kind of, obviously it was a haunted house movie, and they always end up turning into sort of detective mysteries, because you've got to find out who killed this person, why is the spirit so restless, because of the nature of the film was so much about setup and establishing those comedic characters that the mystery didn't really kick in until about halfway through, and that's not really how you should do it. So there was a lot of problems in the edit of trying to figure out how to make this work. So the first cut of Housebound was, really awful, like just so bad.
Depressingly so?
Yeah, I just remember just being ashen-faced and getting my partner Rachel to come in and look at it, and she was looking at me, and I was going, I don't know what to do.
How much
And
did a lot of
she
pressure
was
set
kind of, I think she was pregnant at the time, and she's like, well, you've got to do something. And I was like, and I think what I ended up doing was I made the mental decision that taxpayer funding or not, if I didn't like the film, I'm not going to release it. So somehow that gave me the impetus to just do better. And I think more than my disregard for taxpayers, it was more that I'd seen the worst version of this film. I'd shot the worst possible version of this film. But there were a couple of gems in there that were worth saving. There was a couple of, I felt, really good, beautifully shot, beautifully acted, and if I may say so, beautifully written scenes that were, that deserved to be surrounded by a better film. So I just got to work basically. I mean, it's a good thing about seeing, the worst possible version, because you immediately can see where you shouldn't go, and you've already gone there. But luckily, there's still about 30 minutes. There's still a lot of black holes in the film. So the film's not finished. It's not like someone could turn up at my doorstep from the film commission and say, "Time's up, give me your film." There was so many black holes. So I was able to go, well, we've got about a week of pickup scheduled, and that turned into, like 8 weeks, maybe over a year and a half. Just weekends here and there, because half the cast have moved to Australia.
And what about you, Florence? What would you say, like with your skits and stuff, do you start with a character? Is that how it begins for you? Or a scenario? Or what's the beginning?
It just depends. It
Yeah.
really depends on it's usually character based.
Yeah.
And it's usually a scenario that's occurred or based off a scenario that occurred and then made
In
more
real life, in
extreme.
your own life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a person that I met who was a certain way,
Yeah.
and then I thought, well, that's a really interesting
Did you meet someone who
character.
was Superman?
I had no, I had a flatmate called Sandra, who was from up north in England, and he was just like, he was sort of like that but northern, and I just didn't expect. I was just like, I just didn't expect him to care about things like free range chicken, but he did. He really did, and he was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, cool, okay. And it was just unexpected. And so things like that, where you don't expect something from a certain person to care that much about that stuff. Because it's easy to have like a hippie caring about that.
Yeah.
But it's happening now. There's such a mixture. Society's mixing up so much. That, yeah.
So you guys, and same with you, Millen, are you just taking things from life all the time?
Yeah.
Do you have notebooks?
Yeah, I always write notes in my iPhone because life's like a rehearsal for me. It plays out in front of me, and then I'm like, man, I know that's going to work. So we've already rehearsed that. So let's just write it down and shoot it. Man. Shoot this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And what about you, Gerard? Do you take things from everyday life, or are you more considered?
I used to walk around trying to be a sponge for anything that would come to me, and it just ruined my life, and it was ruining my relationship and ruining my friendships because I wasn't concentrating on anything anyone was telling me.
You were directing in your mind.
Yeah, can I mine this for the material? Is there anything you have in here? Oh, what's that you dropped? Oh, is it a gag?
Yeah.
You can't live your life that way, and you eventually learn that the filter of life will filter out all the shit, and the really good stuff will come through. But absolutely. I mean, the Jaquie Brown Diaries came out of working at TV3 and just seeing all these insecure media personalities, and me thinking, oh my god, no one knows what these people are like, or what their actual off-screen personas are actually like. And
was there a specific person that inspired Reema's character in Housebound?
Yeah, my mum. Yeah. And I was thinking, I don't know, I'd never think that my mum would make a character in a movie, but after watching so many horror movies, I thought, well, that's perfect if a character, like this is, in a horror movie.
I met your mum, and I didn't consider her to be a casual racist.
She's really not. No, it was just, no, she's not. But she's not. It's not that she's not a casual racist. She
An actual racist.
She's unintentionally racist. But she would say, things. A lot of the things that Rima said were, my mum is a sweet. She's from Invercargill, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? You're a product of your environment.
Applause for Gerard's mum.
Hey, applause for my mum.
I've only got time for 2 more questions. The first one, what do you guys do when a scene's not working or something is not as funny as it should be? What would you do, Millen?
Call NZ on air and get our money back. Pretty much, my process is, there'll be a scene scripted, and if it's not working on the floor, we massage it with improv or ad-libs, and we just try and figure it out on the floor. And often, you don't really know until you see it.
Great. Florence?
Show someone that you respect.
Mm-hmm.
That is if it's something that has to be made.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, then just bin it.
Good.
Yeah.
Just go with the story whole thing.
Yeah.
And Gerard?
I'm trying to think of something specific, so that's really helpful. But normally I try and concentrate on a good premise. But I remember one time in I keep talking about the Jaquie Brown Diaries. It's a great show. You should check it out.
It is a great show.
And there was a scene where I was just I was rewriting the week we were shooting, and I wasn't happy with the episode. It really sucked. It was never really written. We'd sort of started shooting without having a full series, and I remember there was a moment when Jackie's flatmate Tom, he was on the road to success, and the whole idea was that was going to piss Jaquie off because he was this loser flatmate that she had that was, his star was rising so much more quickly than hers was, and I had a scene where he was going to the Metro, a Metro Awards shoot, and he was going to hook up with Sarita, played by Madeline Sami, Jackie's nemesis in the show, and that was just going to happen. That's what was going to happen for the plot to work and for Jaquie to get really pissed off and for there to be some sort of showdown. But it was just such a by-the-numbers scene. So Tom goes to the Metro shoot, everything's going great for Tom. Even though he was a sideline character, I realised, well, I still have to figure out, what happens there at this Metro shoot. Something's got to happen. So then, I thought, well, what if Tom thinks that when you go to a Metro shoot, you have to dress yourself? Like, he wouldn't think that you have a stylist and you wear your clothes and stuff. So he turned up in a Flash's long coat, and then ripped open his jacket, and he had this paisley scarf. Everything was paisley, and he was dressed. He's like Paisley Cowboy, And his publicist would explain to him, you don't have to dress for the shoot, and it became a really fun, nice environment. And all I needed was a beat. I just basically needed one beat to remind the audience that they are watching a comedy. They're not just watching a soap.
Right.
Yeah.
So instinctually, you felt something was wrong with that scene.
Yeah, because it was just if you're going through if you're making a comedy show and you're going through an entire page and you don't think that there's a joke there, then obviously you're doing something wrong. But when you're just, I've seen lots of comedy shows that do that because they're just trying to get from, they know they need to get here, and they don't think about, well, you've got to make it fun along the way.
Yeah, great. Okay, what we're going to do now, guys, is we're going to go through, I hope you guys prepped, we're going to give, we're going to go tip, 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 tip. We're going to share a tip with the audience about making a career in comedy. Did you guys prep this?
No.
Here we go. Oh, look, shall I start? And then we'll move to Gerard. Okay.
Well, you prepared, obviously.
I haven't actually got all 5. We are going to do 5, guys. I'll start.
Now,
this isn't so much, this isn't 5 tips. This isn't so much for comedy, but this just in general. There's this book by Robert Winton called The Human Instinct. Now it's really pop science, so it's really kind of easy to read. But basically this book comes from an evolutionary, I just want to tell everyone this, but it comes from an evolutionary standpoint about why we behave like we do. And it's really good when you're writing, because it just breaks down, we're run by very few urges. And by reading this book, you're like, great, I can break down any scenario, any scene I do, down to these urges. It's kind of simplistic, but it's very good to get to the crux of who we are as people. So I recommend that book.
But it also ruins your life.
It does ruin your life, yeah. Gerard?
I think that, especially if you're starting out in your writing, you've got to remember that the business of making film or television, it's a big machine and there's so many moving parts, and that means there's maybe, 243 ways to fuck this joke up by casting it wrong, by getting the wrong director. Positive. Well, I'm going to get to the positive bit. If you take, for example, Florence's sketch, I think that's an example of something that's really, it's performed really well, but I think that sketch would still work if it didn't have a genius like Florence performing it, because the idea of aggressive chavs getting upset about organic chicken is just funny. You could give that to lesser performers and it would still work, and it would make people laugh, and they could tell it to their friends and they would instantly laugh. Whereas all of Millen's stuff is just based on having Millen in it.
He's on to me.
It's true. Florence. What would you like? Little Florence is a 19-year-old just starting out. She's, bright-eyed. What would you tell her?
Oh, I know what I'd tell her.
Keep away from Millen Baird. Just keep. It's such a lame thing to say, but keep going. I don't know. Keep making things, and try. It's trial and error. You're not going to get it right first time.
It's that old 10,000 hours. I just believe in that so much. You have to do 10,000 hours of something to become a master of something.
That's quite a lot.
It is a lot. I've worked it out. It's 10 years, I think. Millen.
Yes, I'll like to add on from what you said, Florence. Buy a camera, buy a shitty little handy cam, whatever, and just shoot, create. If you're applying for funding, it can be frustrating. You're waiting on funding bodies for development funding or whatever. In the meantime, create whatever you want to create, which character, create an online experience for that character, give it a history, create a body of work so that, when it comes to a funding body looking at it, they're like, oh man, I can see, hey, this character's got a life here. Okay, cool. I don't need a proof of concept. You don't have to go for the Premier Pathways Fund. I've got an idea. I don't know whether that's true, by the way. But and be patient. Be patient, because sometimes when you do a project, the timing's not right, and it's like, okay, I've got to park that. And then sooner or later down the line, there's going to be a time where things align, and it will be the right time for that project. So I guess adding on to that is, don't just have the one project, have another one, so that if that one stalls, you can work on the other one.
And also when you're doing well,
yes.
On that note, sorry to interrupt, once you get to a certain level and people do want to fund everything that you're doing, or some of it, you've got a bunch of things lined up, rather than only having one idea.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
In case they say, what else you got?
yeah, and then you're like, oh, well, I've made that for you and it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's race through. Well, we'll only do one more. We've only got time for one more. Another tip I have. Two tips.
Work-life experience.
Another tip is, if you're writing a scene, it's very hard to make the scene about something that's not. I know this is really pedantic and stupid, but it's really hard for what's happening to not be on screen. So it's like a scene that two people talking about something that's happened or is about to happen. It's just a really boring scene. It's much better if it's they're reacting to what's happening with them in the scene, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. I'll give you another one.
I'm busy trying to think of my tip.
Shall we perform it? I get you. We can perform it.
You do? Okay.
Okay.
God. World War II.
Thing tomorrow night.
Yeah, that thing tomorrow night, not World War II. What was I thinking about?
About World War II.
Yeah, I'm nervous, but yeah, so...
Have you guys seen our specials? Are we in a restaurant, or...?
Yeah.
We need to establish where we are.
We do, yes. Oh, all my improv gone out the window. Anyway, another tip.
Sorry, I might have ruined that.
See, that was really shit.
I just don't know how to follow that.
Anyway, what's your tip, Gerard?
I get sent a few scripts, what kind of bugs me often with writing is when writers don't make much of an attempt to kind of detail the world and detail their characters and layer it up. Like they kind of want to tell stories about them and their friends, or they want to set scenes at a cafe. you know, and they just like, as soon as you read Interior Cafe, you know, you've pretty much already lost me, because I know that that's kind of, you know, that's just what we all do. We wake up, we go get coffee, and we go, you know, so try and, you know, it should, no matter what you're doing, even if it is observational and real, like try and find something that's very specific to you or someone you know, and put me in a world that's really interesting, and you know, like make it about a chartered accountant, you know, who fancies his boss. I don't know, but you know, it's just like, oh god, this, you know, this again, we're at a party, and yeah, you're also amazing and funny with each other, and you've got this amazing banter, and you know, it's just so.
Did you read my film?
I didn't want to name names, but
Oh, it was
Right.
me. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
me.
Florence, any other tips?
There's another good book. I think it's Steve Kaplan. It's called The Hidden Tools of Comedy.
Great. Check it out.
It's quite. I mean, it's quite dated in some ways, but it's good. It talks about things like it's not funny watching. It's obvious stuff. It's like
So it's good to be
it's
reminded
not.
of
Yeah,
that.
it's nice to be reminded.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch a winner
Yeah.
because a winner's not funny.
Well, you can't sympathise with the winner, can you?
No, because
Yeah.
they're just winning all the time. Nobody in their life is winning all the time, and that's funny.
What's the book called again?
Steve Kaplan,
Tools of
The
Comedy.
Hidden Tools of Comedy.
Great. And Millen, rounding it off.
Man cannot discover new oceans until he has the courage to lose sight of the shore. It's an Outward Bound reference.
Great.
That basically means
Another play.
put yourself out there. We're in the business of being uncomfortable, and you've got to accumulate life experiences. You've got to put, do whatever it takes, man. Because
Speaking of being uncomfortable,
Can you tell that
Yeah.
story?
You've got 1 minute. You've
That
got 1
story
minute
about
for
you
your
being
wonderful
uncomfortable.
story.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I tried, well, it wasn't really stand-up, but you know those Aotearoa's that they do around the country? They have a bunch of comics performing stand-up, and they did one in 2011 after the first earthquake in Christchurch. And they said, Millen, we've got these amazing comics. You don't have any stand-up experience, do you? No. Oh, that's cool. What we're going to do is, at half-time, we're going to pre-select 3 people out of the audience, and you're going to try and make them laugh. And the last one to laugh wins $500. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty watertight. And then, so on the night, it's half time, and I get there, and there's 3 people who do not, they're like gunning for that $500 bucks. One of them was on the DPP, and they were like, and do you think I could make any of them laugh? I could make any of them laugh at all. To the point where I turned to the audience and I was like, does anyone have a joke? And this guy out of the audience goes, I've got a fucking joke. Why don't you fuck off and get the comics back on? And then there was a small disabled boy at the front of the auditorium who had my back, and he was like, give him some support, he's trying his hardest. And I was like, it was like the worst heckle I could have got in that moment, even though he was trying to help me. And I sprinted off the stage like a greyhound, like I tell you.
Beautiful. Thing of
Yeah.
beauty.
Yeah.
Right, opening it up to the floor, guys. Does anyone have questions for this wonderful panel? Yes, right up there in the back.
I've got a question for Florence. When you were talking before about, not liking cliches, can you think of any recent examples of that?
Oh, we're trying to be positive. Cliches. Oh yeah, that's a real, with women especially, sexual stuff. I always feel quite uncomfortable about women doing unnecessary sexual stuff. Men too, but periods and things like that, where it's just that's such an old joke. It's not funny for anyone, I don't think, anymore. Or maybe it is. But, no.
Missionary Seen that before.
Yeah. There are so many.
I think anytime people are having sex on screen, it just feels like a cliche. It's like, let's just get a kid off and let's get the bums out and let's just, it's supposed to be a bit naughty.
In girls, we've seen it in girls, it's not, it's rubbish. All the sex is rubbish. Like, they're always terrible in bed, which is really funny to watch. And they always get really naked too. Like, you see everything, and it's not great.
Yeah, so how to not make it a cliche is just make the bodies quite hideous.
It's not that they're hideous, it's just they're not. You don't want to see that.
Any other questions? Yes, down here in the front.
Yeah.
Yes, good sex is a cliche.
And it's going for ages.
The lovely
blonde. No, the cliche is we've entered the apartment and we threw. I've never thrust anyone against the wall. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but I've never come in and I've been kissing and it's just like,
This lovely blonde woman in the front.
Yeah, hi. It's for Gerard. Gerard?
yes, hello.
Judd.
Hi. When you said you wanted to you watched the worst version of Housebound, was that all through reshoot that you made a better one, or was it editing? Like, what made it?
What made it better?
Yeah, was
what
it
saved
pickups,
it?
or was it? Yeah.
It was the we sort of redid the middle. So God, I can't remember what the middle was before. But it obviously wasn't very good. But I just needed momentum. It didn't have any momentum, so we just gave Kylie, made her more of a proactive character and gave her something to do. We tried to keep it limited to all being in the house, and I had toyed around with this, like, just that it would be fun to have a creepy neighbour, but I thought, no, keep it in the house. So we shot that version of the film, and it didn't work. I was like, no, okay, creepy neighbour. So put a creepy neighbour in, and then make him be. Sorry if you haven't seen the film, I'm spoil it, but fuck you if you haven't seen it. Make him the red herring. Just gives her something to do for like the middle act basically, and as a result of that, it's a nice way for her to find out information, because this really creepy guy that you thought was a killer can be the one giving some exposition. So the way that works, and that that was an example of maybe how I was able to figure out a way to make exposition work by making you scared that this guy was going to kill you, he was going to tell you something you needed to know, and then he was going to stab you. So so that sort of tended to make that work. But also, I do think that there was a lot of editing that went on, and I do think that editing, is totally as important as the writing. Because you can easily just fuck up a joke with. I need to stop swearing, sorry. But you can easily just ruin a joke with the timing. So yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, here.
I have a question for the three of you. Sorry for my English.
I love it.
So it's about the human part of your job, the social part of your work. Do you ever find yourself, when you're around other people, does it happen that they expect you to be fun? Like, do you find yourself in an awkward silence moment where everyone is just staring at you and waiting for you to say something fun?
Do you feel the pressure to be funny all the time, and in social situations especially?
Well, that was part of what he was saying, but also just do you have awkward moments where you're just staring at people thinking, should I be the first to say something? But yeah, I think so. Yes.
Yeah, so that scene in Swingers where the guy says, "What do you do?" and he says, "I'm a comedian." Priest.
We're doing it right now.
I quite like awkwardness.
Yeah.
I quite like how people behave, and that's almost enjoyable for me to say something. Like, almost every waiter I come across, I'll say something. I don't know what it is in me that does it, but I just can't help but make a joke or do something funny to brighten their day, and it often is received 99.9% of the time like this. Yeah, that's probably true.
There are those people as well that really annoy you, that they've made a life decision not to do filler. So whenever you see them,
Yeah,
there's no small talk.
yeah.
So you find yourself saying the same thing you said to them last time, and you're putting them in that awkward situation. And normally they're the ones that came over to you anyway to start the conversation, and you're doing all the work. I hate people like that.
There's this great documentary called The White Diamond by the German director. What's that German director that's making documentaries? Can anyone think of him? The White Diamond, anyway. I think it's Werner Herzog. And he's done this documentary. He did The Grizzly Man, is his famous one, but he did one called The White Diamond, and I learned something great from him. He would ask his subjects, they were like nerds trying to make this balloon that would float over the Amazon, and he'd ask them questions, and then he wouldn't ask another question afterwards. So they'd answer, and then they'd just be like, and then they all felt like they had to fill the silence. So, and then like some of them would do little bits of dancing and stuff like that. Like it's just great. Just let people perform. Fill the space. It's wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Two more questions. Down here.
Hi. Did you guys train anywhere as comedy writers, or did you just think, hey, I'm funny, I'm gonna write some shit?
Did you have teachers along the way or
Yeah,
courses?
or mentors, or just like, yeah.
No, I was writing stuff from a really young age, just seeing things and going, oh, that's funny. And I think having watched lots of comedy from a young age, I just became obsessed with it, and I'd imitate it, and I'd perform it for people and see how they reacted, and then just naturally just wrote. But
Pretty much happened just like you said. I just caught a reflection one day and said, "You funny fuck," and that was it.
Alan, did you train? I suppose you did acting.
Yeah, I trained at Unitec. Yeah, we did short films in the second year, and I thought, man, I like this. Me like this. And then it was just kind of sort of on the job. I remember Katerina Denave at TV3 was always like, man, your ending sucked. All your sketches are so bad. You need to work on that. So she was kind of a mentor for me. But it was just, on the job kind of training. In real life, how did it end in real life? Sweet, we'll end it there.
You done with the mic?
Yeah.
Last question. Anyone got the final question? Big pressure.
he doesn't need one.
A question from anyone?
Two.
Here they are, guys. You can
As good as the castle.
What?
say that again.
How do we make a film as good as the castle?
Yeah, good call. Gerard, you can field that one.
We get Rolf Stitch over here.
How do we make a film as good as The Castle? Well, we've got to embrace our own voice.
There's a great line in that film. What is it with wogs and cash?
I'm sure the makers of the castle asked themselves the same question after they made the dish and thought, how do we make a film as good as the castle was?
And on that note, thanks very much. Let's have a round of applause for
Life is about
wonderful
peaks and
panellists.
troughs.
It is.